Hello, I'm Andrew from Limitless Park, and damn! Now those are what I call states, and 50 of them at that. I've recently received word that some of these states have so-called theme parks in them. No! Now I've gone on the record as saying I enjoy theme parks before, and I've also never been to Nebraska, so why not continue those two things by seeing which states are the best for theme parks and which are the worst?
I'll be ranking all 50 states from worst to best based on the amount of theme parks they have, as well as the quality of said theme parks. I mean, just because Idaho doesn't have the sheer number of theme parks that Florida has, doesn't mean Florida has Silverwood.
Maybe another day we can rank the 50 states by looking at how many roller coasters they have, or how many dark rides they have. Or we could even throw Nebraska a bone and look at cattle production. But for now, we're keeping things strictly the quality of the theme parks in each state. Oh, and while I'll try to use as many facts as possible in this ranking, at the end of the day, this is still my opinion, so all of you South Dakota fans, if South Dakota isn't ranked exactly where you want it, please don't riot.
Magically whisked away to Delaware.
So these first few are probably going to fly through pretty fast since there's not much to talk about. Number 50 is Delaware. It's got no theme parks and no personality. See you later. Number 49 is Hawaii. It has no theme parks or roller coasters, but I mean, come on, it's Hawaii. It has to be higher than Delaware.
We're off on the road to Rhode Island.
Finally, a theme park. Kinda. Rhode Island is at number 48, and it has a place called Atlantic Beach Park, which is kinda like a pierside old school amusement park. I don't know. It's got no big rides. It doesn't really matter. Okay.
North Dakota, here we come. I've always wanted to see Mount Rushmore.
Now, I was kinda expecting North Dakota to be at the bottom of the barrel for this list, but no, it's only 47/50ths towards the bottom of the barrel. North Dakota has one tiny park called Super Slide Amusement Park. It has, get this, a pretty super slide, great for all your sliding needs. It also has a garbage family coaster if you're into that sort of thing.
When I came to Alaska, the land that I love.
What are you up to up there in the up north, huh? Not much, huh?
Look, Alaska is a beautiful state, but it's not exactly the king of theme parks. Honestly, I didn't expect it to have anything, but it does have the Alaska State Fair, which does have a super cyclone roller coaster, so that's kinda cool.
This is Nebraska!
Well, you can't spell number 45 as Nebraska without Nebraska. The state has a fairground and an FEC, or Family Entertainment Center, both with some kiddie coasters, so I guess that technically makes it better than Alaska, but like, who cares?
Rapper NBA YoungBoy has been arrested in Louisiana.
44 is Louisiana, and this is kinda a weird one. If we were doing this list during the era of Six Flags New Orleans, the state might be a lot higher. But unfortunately, that park was destroyed in a hurricane and closed in 2005. Some of the park still stands, including 4 decaying roller coasters. This legacy is honestly way more important and interesting than Carousel Gardens and Celebration Station, which are 2 tiny FEC community park type places. They look pretty nice for what they are, but my shoulders can't shrug any higher, okay? Number 43 is Mississippi, and we're continuing the very boring trend of a few FECs and tiny parks, but nothing more. This is getting boring. I promise we're almost done though.
Montana is next.
Montana is interesting because it actually has our first alpine coaster. Now, I have a soft spot for these mountain coasters and the tiny theme park areas they reside in. Sure, this might be the only thing resembling anything close to a theme park in Montana, but hey, at least it's not another damn FEC!
Number 41 is Wyoming, and we're doing the same one alpine coaster shtick as Montana. These two states are pretty interchangeable. I'm just putting Wyoming above Montana because I like Jackson's Hole.
In Vermont.
Hey, Vermont is upping the game by having 2 alpine coasters. That's nice.
Toto? I have a feeling we're in Kansas.
Yet another state that I thought might have nothing is Kansas, but turns out they love their fairgrounds. Look at how many there are. The quality of these fairgrounds varies, but you simply can't deny the quantity.
Hi, do you like South Dakota but don't want to see Mount Rushmore?
come to North Dakota.
Okay, so number 38 is South Dakota, and man, I really want to rank this one higher. I mean, there's a new theme park that's set to open there called Liberty Land USA. But hey, this thing has a planned opening date of 2026, and who knows if it'll even make that opening date, or if it'll even open at all. I really hope it does, but it's a lot less concrete than a lot of the other theme parks that are under construction right now in the US that we'll get to later.
So therefore, we have to judge this mainly on what it has, and what it has isn't pretty. There's a mountain coaster, some tiny FECs, and small parks, and a state fair. But that's slightly better than the previous states, I'll give it that.
West Virginia.
Now, I might always forget that West Virginia exists, but it's actually got one theme park with some history to it. That park is Camden Park, and it's got a very old school feel with old wooden roller coasters to go along with it.
There's also an alpine coaster that's currently under construction, some jank zoo with a kiddie coaster, and hey, West Virginia also gave us Steve Harvey. That's an attraction right there.
We made it to Oregon!
Oregon's got a whole lot of nothing, just some small parks and a state fair. Interestingly, what puts this ahead of the others is a park called Oaks Amusement Park, which has a Eurofighter roller coaster, a ride type that I consider to be somewhat rare in the US.
Fun fact, back in 2017, Oaks actually held a contest to determine the name of the new roller coaster they were building. Adrenaline Peak won out, but personally, I think the names that I came up with were a little bit better.
She's got a family in South Carolina.
Hey, it's South Carolina. This place actually has tons of different beautiful touristy locations such as Hilton Head and Myrtle Beach. It must have tons of theme parks and attractions, right? No!
Yeah, not gonna lie, South Carolina's kinda disappointing. There is one decent yet small theme park in Myrtle Beach called Family Kingdom Amusement Park that has a cool wooden coaster, and a newer park called Funplex that opened in 2021 and features this monstrosity, but other than that, it's nothing special.
Ah, the Panhandle State, known for its panhandle and not its theme parks. Interestingly, this is the first state with a major corporation's theme park. Oklahoma is home to Frontier City, a Six Flags theme park.
That said, it's not anything to write home about. They have some more extreme and unique roller coasters, but I'm not here to geek out at the admittedly pretty cool Aero shuttle loop they have. I'm here to move on to Washington.
Washington must be nice.
Now, I'm a sucker for Washington State, considering it's given us wonderful things such as the awesome Space Needle landmark, Starbucks coffee, which has given me personally the delicious lavender oat milk latte. I'm addicted. And the Nintendo of America and Microsoft headquarters are located in the state. And boy, I have a soft spot for these companies, I must admit. But that doesn't mean I'm just gonna go easy on this state, because its theme park scene is kinda lacking.
Washington has one small theme park in Wild Waves Theme and Water Park, and as you can probably tell by the name, the theme park portion isn't their biggest priority. They do have a somewhat well-known wooden coaster called Timberhawk, but that's about it. There's also a state fair with its own permanent wooden coaster, that's something you don't see every day, and some mountain coasters and FECs, but they have Mario, so it's actually number one.
But you in Maine now, boy!
Oh, Maine, what a beautiful state.
But it doesn't have a ton of theme parks, so it sucks!
The state has 2 small parks and 1 tiny one, but none of them leave a huge impact. That said, the most important one is Funtown Splashtown USA, and it does have a pretty large wooden coaster called Excalibur.
With 4-player New Mexico Brothers we will be playing together.
The first new state on our list unfortunately doesn't have anything too new going on.
Similarly to Maine, there's 2 smaller parks in Cliffs Amusement Park and Western Playland that aren't anything super notable, but they're not bad either.
Cliffs Amusement Park isn't actually located on a cliff though, so now I feel like jumping off of one.
Sonic R. Kansas.
Maybe this is a bit controversial, but I don't think Arkansas belongs any higher than here. Sure, it's got a decent sized park in Magic Springs Theme and Water Park, which has a few notable attractions, including the only Mauer Sky Loop in the US.
But I mean, it's a Mauer Sky Loop. Just like your daughter's middle school graduation, that's not exactly something to be proud of.
They also have an SLC, and the state only has one other crappy FECU.
Missouri from Michigan didn't work, so we moved back to Missouri from Missouri back to Michigan.
Hey, we've reached our first state with a Cedar Fair park, and it's the one that everybody loves to make fun of. Yay! I personally don't think Michigan's adventure looks all that bad, but again, it's Michigan's adventure. It's probably not worth going to bat for.
Other than that, the state has quite a few FECs and smaller parks with decent rides, so it's not a complete loss. Plus, you can enjoy the wonderful theming of the decaying buildings of Detroit.
Potato, 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 potato.
As previously stated, I found out about Silverwood by mail, and I've had respect for Idaho ever since. This is a nice, moderately sized theme park with quite a few quality coasters, even our first Rocky Mountain construction coaster in Stunt Pilot and RMC Raptor. The park's close proximity to Rocky Mountain Construction's headquarters means they've gotten various help with retracking roller coasters in addition to the Raptor. Also, it has a giant boomerang coaster, which I believe is the only one operating in the US now, and it used to be located at Six Flags Great America as well.
Wow, such history.
The rest of the state kind of blows though, so that's that.
Viva Las Vegas.
Now, when we talk about Nevada, we're essentially just talking about Las Vegas because it basically has all the theme parks and attractions in the whole state. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been to Vegas and found it extremely overwhelming. I mean, they have a giant White Castle and a giant Denny's. I'm getting dizzy and horny just thinking about it. But I have to admit, it's got a decent amount of attractions.
There's the Adventure Dome, which has some decent theming for a little indoor park, and also weirdly one of my favorite Aero Looper coasters I've ever ridden. There's also the Stratosphere, which has some of the world's most terrifying rides ever, and the New York Hotel, which has one of the most rides ever. And just a drive outside the city is Buffalo Bill's Hotel and Casino, which shut down their massive Aero Hypercoaster in 2019, and it's been standing but not operating ever since. The city used to be better, I swear. Alabama actually has a couple decent theme parks, such as Alabama Adventure, which seems to be adding different things every year, even if they're small.
There's also Tropic Falls Theme Park, a pretty neat smaller theme park that opened in Gulf Shores, Alabama in 2017.
One time I was actually on a spring break trip with some friends in Pensacola, Florida, which was only about an hour away from Tropic Falls. When we were planning the trip, I asked if we could go there for half a day because we had plenty of time and I'd do anything else on the trip with them, and they said sure, it sounds like a lot of fun, and I was so excited. Now, if you're thinking this story ends with me saying we went to the park and had a blast, nope, we did not, and I'm still kinda upset about it. It was my one thing for the trip.
I need to go take my blood pressure medication. But wait, I bet some of you are probably thinking, Andrew, there's more than just the 50 states to the US. What about all the various territories in the country? Well, worry not, because here's my super awesome, super fast guide to the US territories theme parks.
Guam has one tiny park called Funtastic Park. It's got a tiny family coaster. There's nothing fantastic about this. Moving on. Puerto Rico's got a whole heaping helping of nothing in the theme park department. How neat. DC also doesn't have any theme parks, but I mean there's like a million museums and things to see there, plus you can drive north to a bad theme park we'll get to soon, so can you really complain? These smaller island territories also don't have any theme parks, but like, look at these locations. They don't make me want to ride roller coasters, they make me want to sit on a beach drinking an adult beverage like, I don't know, sparkling water or something. I'm glad none of their real estate is being taken up by some Zyklon galaxy. And that's it. Okay, number
25.
Speaking of theme parks I've been close to but didn't go to, New Hampshire has one smaller but meaningful park called Kenobi Lake Park. My family drove past this in 2016 on a trip from Boston to Portland, Maine, but to be fair, we had already went to Six Flags New England that trip, and Kenobi Lake Park isn't exactly better than seeing the 2016 Jason Bourne film in Portland, which we did in fact do.
How can I choose between Jason Bourne and the Yankee Cannonball?
By the way, Yankee Cannonball doesn't even have a category on the thrill scale on Roller Coaster Database. That's how crazy it is. Okay, actually I think my family made the wrong choice. But hey, that's not all. They also have a few mountain coasters and some other tiny parks, including one that's getting a new Vekoma family roller coaster this year. You know, New Hampshire ain't too bad.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Uh-oh, this could be a tough one. You see, I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm a bit biased towards the cheese state.
Kiss me on the mouth, Culvers!
But I'll try to hate it as much as possible.
Now the positive of Wisconsin is that if you like wooden roller coasters, they've got quite a few of them. Mount Olympus Theme Park, Little America, Bay Beach, combined they offer 6 different wooden roller coasters, and that's pretty great. But other than that, what? Tomfoolery's FEC? That's about it. And I'm not saying any of those previous parks are necessarily amazing themselves. Mount Olympus is one of the sketchiest parks I've ever visited. If you want to feel like you might die, go to Mount Olympus.
I personally think a better theme park experience is going to Pirate Park in Racine, Wisconsin. It's themed to pirates. Come on, that's great.
Yeah, I am in Maryland. Yeah, I am in Maryland. Yeah, I am in Maryland. I am in Maryland.
Well, we've officially made it to that aforementioned bad theme park I mentioned during Washington, D.C. Maryland has Six Flags America. Personally, when I went in 2017, I didn't think it was that bad, but it's definitely got some of the worst operations ever. Backing up that mediocre Six Flags park, though, is quite a few Pierside parks with a decent selection of rides, a mountain coaster, and some FECs. That's quite the variety.
There really is a Kentucky.
The land of Jack Harlow.
That joke is gonna age this video like milk.
Kentucky has two smaller theme parks in Kentucky Kingdom and Beach Bend, but the quality is definitely there for both of them. The state also has 3 FECs called Malibu Jacks. They all have the same coaster called Twist and Shout.
Look, I'm sure most of these FECs are quality, but every time I look at them, I feel like if I ever visit them, I'm just gonna end up getting strep throat.
Kentucky is pretty good though. They got a ton of Raising Cane's too, and that's better than all their theme parks combined.
Connecticut is the place.
Connecticut has one small theme park in Lake Compounce, but that park has a handful of quality rides. I mean, Boulder Dash is consistently one of the highest rated wooden coasters in the world. They also have 2 tiny parks, one of them being Quasi Amusement Park, which is pretty frequently talked about as a nice little family attraction. Overall, not bad, Connecticut.
Arizona, Arizona, Arizona.
I feel like a few years back, Arizona would have been a joke in terms of theme parks, but looking at it now, it doesn't really seem all that bad. Their main attraction is castles and coasters, which isn't anything special, but they also have a few other tiny parks, some FECs, even a couple alpine coasters, and the Mattel theme park will be opening here soon, featuring some pretty great theming and rides, which means Arizona honestly looks to be holding its own on the theme park related end of things.
And does that weird glass walkway over the Grand Canyon count as an attraction? Because if so, I feel like Arizona deserves both first and last place.
We're not watching TV. We're Mormons now, and we're having family home evening.
Utah is home to a big lagoon and a big lagoon. Located in this state is a rather large-sized theme park called Lagoon. It's one of those random independent parks that somehow can compete with large corporate Six Flags and Cedar Fair parks out there. They have a ton of great rides with some decent theming here and there. Like, look at that rock work on Primordial. And look at that, Dippin' Dots!
I'm theming my funeral to Dippin' Dots.
Utah also has quite a few alpine coasters to round out their lineup, so it's definitely earned this spot.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America.
So we've had some Six Flags parks before, but I think Massachusetts is the first state to have a truly great one. Six Flags New England is one of the moderately sized parks in the chain, but it still has some great rides like Wicked Cyclone and Superman the Ride. The state also has a few tiny parks and FECs, and even a mountain coaster, which, like, I gotta be honest, I didn't even know Massachusetts had any mountains, but I digress. It's also worth noting that the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art had a whole theme park and roller coaster display by E.J. Hill, which used to have a weird roller coaster attraction display called Brava that guests could actually ride. It just shut down in February 2024, but I feel like it's still worth mentioning because, like, what is this?
Cause it get cold like Minnesota, cold like Minnesota.
I feel like I've seen a lot of people complain over the years that Minnesota's theme park scene is severely lacking, and I just don't get it. Valleyfair is their main park, and while it hasn't gotten any major coaster additions in a long time, it's still a decent Cedar Fair park, albeit on the smaller side. But I mean, I've ridden all the coasters there, and Renegade, Steel Venom, High Roller, Wild Thing, Excalibur, all of these are nice coasters with lots of fun to be had on them. And Minnesota also has the original Nickelodeon Universe, a cartoon-themed indoor park at the Mall of America. They have a roller coaster named after the SpongeBob episode where he gets stuck in rock bottom. Literally every other state can't say that about themselves.
Yeah, get out of here, New Jersey, and your sandy-themed roller coaster.
Minnesota also has an alpine coaster, some other tiny parks, Paul Bunyan Land. This state rocks and none of y'all are appreciating it enough.
Similarly to Wisconsin, I currently live in Indiana, so I'm a bit biased towards it. But while it's a bit easier to be critical with Wisconsin's theme park scene, I find that a bit harder to do with Indiana.
Sure, it's not perfect, but Indiana has a decent 1-2 punch with Indiana Beach and Holiday World. Both are some of the better independent parks in the US, with Holiday World being known for cool holiday theming and world-class coasters like Voyage and Thunderbird, and Indiana Beach is known for a crow mascot, and some weirdly good tacos, and just being generally sketchy in a charming sort of way. Indiana also has the Indianapolis Zoo, a nicely themed zoo with a roller coaster called Combo, which I'm pretty sure is themed to Combos, the yummy cheesy snack I like to buy at my local Get-Go cafe and market.
Look here, I got the pizzeria flavor. It's supposed to taste like pizza. Let's give it a try. Tastes like pizza if pizza came in a can. There's also the return of Malibu Jack's FEC in Lafayette, Indiana. Never mind, I hate this state.
Time to get the stomach flu.
You are in Iowa.
Iowa. Well, at least now I know how to pronounce it. I always thought you folks preferred Iowa.
Continuing the trend of talking about Midwestern states that start with I and have surprisingly good theme park scenes, we have Iowa.
Iowa might have been ranked a bit lower if we did this a few years ago, but in 2022, a new theme park called Lost Island opened with some pretty great theming and rides for a small regional theme park. It's definitely towards the top of my list of US theme parks I want to visit. But that's not all. There's also Adventureland, which isn't a land in the Magic Kingdom, but instead another pretty cool regional theme park which has seen lots of changes and development since around 2016. There's also Arnold's Park, a classic amusement park with some old school rides including a wooden coaster from the 1930s and a bizarre older version of a wild mouse. Seriously guys, Iowa goes kinda hard when it comes to theme parks. I highly suggest looking into visiting the state if any of these sound interesting to you.
But god damn it, there's another Malibu Jack's. Okay, never mind then.
She's got a family,
North
Carolina.
That's the same joke twice.
Now North Carolina is awesome because they have a Yogi Bear Jellystone National Park attraction with an actual mountain coaster on the premises. And they have Carowinds, so that's neat I guess. Jokes aside, Carowinds is one of the premier Cedar Fair parks with some decent theming in some of the park and some top of the line rides and roller coasters. Guys, the coaster. Come on now. Now I feel like it's worth mentioning that Carowinds is technically located in both North and South Carolina, which is an admittedly pretty neat feature of the park, but according to Roller Coaster Database, Carowinds is only listed in North Carolina, so therefore I think it makes sense that South Carolina doesn't get any credit for this one.
The Bears still suck, the Bears still suck, the Bears still suck, the Bears still suck.
Okay, so 13th place is still pretty high, but I feel like Illinois should be much higher. They have a massive city like Chicago, but the only really important park they have to show for it is Six Flags Great America.
Now don't get me wrong, Great America is a pretty awesome theme park packed with tons of roller coasters. This was actually my home park for a while as I lived in the southeastern part of Wisconsin, and it offered tons of variety of different rides and roller coasters. I mean, it has a Batman ride and a Superman ride? No other park in Illinois can say that.
So that's actually really unfortunate because other than Six Flags, Illinois has what? Santa's Village Amusement Park? Aries Resort and Winery? This state deserves better, and if it weren't for Six Flags, I'd be singing a different tune.
I've got a country cousin cruising with the black man Savannah at the Florida-Georgia line.
Overall, Georgia is a good theme park state that could be propelled to greatness with some more development and care for their current parks. The main park here is Six Flags Over Georgia, which is overall one of the better Six Flags parks with some good rides and even some decent theming here and there. Besides that, the next most impactful park currently is actually Fun Spot America Atlanta, but that's only because of an awesome RMC roller coaster that it got in 2023. Other than that, it's a pretty small, unremarkable park. Speaking of unremarkable, Georgia also has Wild Adventures. This park is owned by Hershend, which you'd think would be a good thing as they're the owners behind Kentucky Kingdom, Dollywood, and Silver Dollar City, but nope, this is kinda the runt of the litter. The theming is alright, I guess, but man, I don't know. Their best coaster, Cheetah, was a wooden coaster, and it was removed in 2020, and now what? A boomerang? An SLC? Boo. All that said, these 3 parks plus some other tiny parks throughout the state do a good enough job to give it the 12th spot. I just think it could be so much more.
The all-new Colorado is made for more.
Just missing the top 10 is Colorado, which is quite literally the worst best state for theme parks. I mean, it's got a Lich Gardens. That's the theme park equivalent of lung cancer.
Yeah, a Lich Garden sucks, but it's also Colorado's premier theme park, and hey, at least the downtown Denver setting is pretty cool. Is there anything else in the Denver area worth noting? Well, there is Lakeside Amusement Park, so that's cool, I guess.
One time while my family and I were on a trip there, we actually drove past the park while heading to Uncle Julio's Mexican restaurant. I'd say I'm glad we didn't stop and just went to Uncle Julio's, but the food was kind of cold, so I don't know.
But where Colorado truly excels is all the mountain-based attractions in the Rocky Mountains. There are so many alpine coasters, more than any other state, I'm pretty sure. And the crown jewel of mountain attractions in Colorado has to be Glenwood Caverns. It's got tons of thrilling and terrifying high-altitude attractions, including a swing over a cliffside, a roller coaster over a cliffside, a drop tower inside a cliffside. This place looks sick, and I would love to visit it someday.
In my Tennessee.
We've reached the top 10, and Tennessee is the only 10 I see. I promise I didn't make it top 10 just to make that joke.
Now, Tennessee used to have an impressive theme park in the Nashville area called Opryland USA, and the park had a pretty neat history to it, but it's sadly no longer there and was replaced by the Opry Mills Mall.
I saw Bullet Train there. That movie was dumb.
So, since no major cities in Tennessee have theme parks, it's up to the various tourist trap towns in the Smoky Mountains to show me why I should care. But care I do, because Tennessee has Dollywood, a brilliantly themed park with tons of rides and roller coasters, courtesy of Dolly Parton. There's so much to do here, and some of the theming is genuinely on par with the likes of Disney and Universal parks. On top of that, there's seemingly endless smaller attractions like alpine coasters, FECs, a NASCAR-themed park, goats on the damn roof. It's just a ton of cheesy yet charming and fun stuff to do, and somewhere I can't believe I haven't visited yet.
Just
Virginia! Number 9 is Virginia, which claims this spot due to having 2 major theme parks in the state. There's King's Dominion, a Cedar Fair park that'll give you your fix if you're wanting big thrills and a general top-tier amusement park feel, and then you have Busch Gardens Williamsburg, an incredibly well-themed park with a European feel and tons of excellent coasters in their lineup. And the parks are only an hour apart, so you could easily do both of them in a single trip. And it's not just those 2. Virginia also has a couple tiny parks and FECs to round it out. Overall, it's a very solid state in my opinion.
Here we are! Branson, Missouri.
Missouri, huh? Honestly, this was one of the bigger surprises to me. I always feel like nothing's really going on here, but in reality, the state has 3 major theme parks. One from Six Flags with Six Flags St. Louis, one from Cedar Fair with Worlds of Fun, and one from Hershend with Silver Dollar City, which is essentially a sister park to Dollywood. None of these parks are the greatest in their chain or anything, but they're still pretty high quality theme parks with lots of different rides, and in Silver Dollar City's case, some top of the line theming that's sure to make any Disney fans squee.
I've always admired how, despite Missouri not being a very large state, all these theme parks are relatively spread out and cover their own areas. For instance, Six Flags St. Louis obviously has the St. Louis area, Worlds of Fun has the Kansas City area, and Silver Dollar City has the Ozarks. It means no matter where you live in Missouri, you probably have decent access to a theme park, which is pretty cool.
Ohio, don't get killed here.
Ohio is number 7, and despite some people saying the state doesn't exist, it most definitely does, as it has 2 premier Cedar Fair parks in Kings Island and Cedar Point. The former covers the Cincinnati area and has so many great rides with some actually pretty beautiful sections of the park and some decent theming. The latter is Cedar Point, and I mean, come on, it's Cedar Point. It feels like coaster enthusiasts treat visiting this place like it's a pilgrimage to Mecca or something. That's how important it is.
But what if you hate happiness and don't want to visit either of these, but still want to go to a theme park? Well, might I recommend Stricker's Grove? It's a weird tiny theme park that's open to the public only a few days out of the year, but can be rented by different corporations or businesses in order to have like some sort of private party there.
Or there's the Columbus Zoo, which has 2 roller coasters, one of which is an actual wooden coaster. I mean, like, is it just me, or is that kind of wild? Like, Ohio seems to just take a bunch of normal places like company picnic areas or zoos or grocery stores and just make them attractions with rides and stuff. It's so awesome, but at the same time kind of bizarre.
Our nation's official joke state shall be New Jersey.
Now, I feel like nobody really talks about New Jersey in the best light. Like, it's always in New York City's shadow, everybody from there seems pissed off. I've never seen a picture or a video of the state where the sky isn't gray. It's a pretty scary looking place. However, against all odds, New Jersey has an amazing theme park selection.
Obviously, you have Six Flags Great Adventure, which some might call the best Six Flags park in the whole US. To that I say, Magic Mountain's better, hee-haw. But I can't deny that it is still a pretty fantastic theme park, and it's backed up by tons of other smaller theme parks in the area, most of which are pierside.
They got Casino Pier, Gillian's, Jenkinson, Steel Pier, Playland, all of which have more than just your average wacky worm and fair rides. They also have the second Nickelodeon Universe park in the American Dream Mall, which reiterates on all the Nickelodeon theming of the Mall of America one with some bigger and better coasters and rides. They literally have an exact clone of Takashiba, which is the steepest coaster in the world, and it's just there, like no big deal. It's literally so cool until you see the price of admission, okay.
But yeah, New Jersey is pretty awesome. Just can't top its neighbor though.
So where are we gonna move to, George?
What do you mean move? We're gonna kill ourselves together. We're tired of New York, so we're gonna jump into the elevator shaft and kill ourselves.
We've officially reached the top 5, and honestly, going forward, every state has too many theme parks to mention. That's a good thing because that means there's so much stuff to do in the state, but I'm gonna try to blaze through these as fast and efficiently as possible. If I don't mention one, it's not because I missed it, it's just because I don't think, Huck Finn's Playland in Albany, New York is worth your time.
So anyways, New York has a crazy amount of attractions and theme parks to choose from. Just going off places resembling theme parks near New York City, you have all the Coney Island and Luna Park attractions, Legoland New York, Adventureland and Farmingdale, and then if you go upstate, you have 2 different Six Flags parks in Darien Lake and Six Flags The Great Escape. Sure, they're pretty much the bottom of the barrel when it comes to Six Flags parks, but they still have a decent amount of attractions. Then you also have classic amusement parks like Seabreeze or Playland Park. If you live in New York and are willing to drive a little bit, you'll truly never run out of things to see and do, especially if you like theme parks.
Hey, Patrick, what am I now?
Stupid?
No, I'm Texas.
Texas is such a massive state, but they definitely do a good job at spreading out their theme parks and attractions enough.
First off, there are 2 Six Flags theme parks, one of which is Six Flags Over Texas, the actual first Six Flags theme park up in Dallas, and then the other one is Six Flags Fiesta Texas, which is widely considered to be one of the best theme parks, or at least the best themed, in the entire Six Flags chain.
San Antonio also has a SeaWorld park in SeaWorld San Antonio, and while it might be the weakest park of the 3, it still has some decent rides and theming on offer. And not too far away is a small FEC called ZDT's, which is notable due to the really awesome wooden coaster Switchback that actually goes backwards. And if you venture over to Houston, you'll find Kemah Boardwalk with an awesome wooden coaster, Boardwalk Bullet.
Remember that aforementioned Pensacola trip I went on? Well, I actually had a 5-hour layover in Houston Airport while going there, and I strongly debated taking an Uber out to ride the roller coaster. But I didn't end up doing that because, don't worry, I'm only an idiot on the weekends, and it was a Tuesday.
Anyways, right next to that boardwalk is the Galveston Island Historic Pleasure Pier with another awesome roller coaster called Iron Shark. And near that is the most heavily themed rainforest cafe in the whole US that literally has a river raft ride inside the restaurant. Texas is insane! There's also tons of other tiny parks scattered throughout the state, but the cherry on top is Codaland, a theme park and racetrack in Austin, Texas that, while already open, is planning to open 2 massive new and unique roller coasters in 2025, catapulting their theme park and racetrack into an even more popular location worth visiting.
I've been drained.
Ladies and gentlemen, Flight 427 to Philadelphia has been canceled.
Alright, top 3. We're so close, and third place is what the hell? Really? No offense to Pennsylvania, but I just never really thought of it as a place where theme parks would reign supreme. But alas, my god, this state is wonderful. Dorney Park, Hershey Park, Kennywood, Knoebels, Waldemere, all moderate to large parks with tons of things to see and do. Hershey Park is literally one of the biggest theme parks in the whole US. And then you have tons of other smaller parks that are still worth mentioning. Del Grosso's, Dutch Wonderland, Idlewild, Lakemont, Sesame Place featuring Oscar's Wacky Taxi, my favorite roller coaster themed to Oscar the Grouch. Each one of these still offers notable quality attractions that are definitely still worth visiting.
I don't think there's a single state that I want to do a giant theme park road trip in more than Pennsylvania, and I really hope that someday I can. I also want to see the Big Bell.
Crazy Florida, Florida.
Alright, the runner-up number 2 spot goes to Florida. Maybe this one is a shocker to you, maybe it isn't. I think a lot of people would place it at number 1, and I can totally see why, but let me explain my thoughts first. The main draws for Florida are obviously Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando. Disney has 4 world-class theme parks with some of the best theming on the planet, and Universal has 2 that very much fall into that same category, with a third one on the way. After that, you have parks like Busch Gardens Tampa, SeaWorld Orlando, and Legoland Florida, all of which have some pretty great theming, coasters, and other attractions to experience. They're maybe not world class, but they're certainly some of the best regional parks. But then after that, what? The Fun Spot parks? Peppa Pig theme park? This isn't exactly a great supporting cast. It's fine, sure, and better than every other state so far, but is it worth the number 1 spot?
Of course, it's worth noting that Orlando itself has a greater amount of theme parks in its area than probably any other city in the country. If you want the most amount of theme parks within the least amount of driving and an insane amount of quality, you go to Orlando. It's a no-brainer for family vacations. But I also feel like with all these parks comes a lot more complaining from theme park fans and Disney fans. Unfortunately, even the greatest theme parks in Florida haven't necessarily been managed the best, depending on who you ask. There's just a lot of discourse there that while you can definitely find some of the same discourse in the state that I put at number 1, I feel like it's definitely less there, and for other reasons that I'll list in a second, I feel it definitely outshines Florida. Let's talk about it.
It's so cool in California. Work as a waitress and fail as an actress.
Dude, California is insane and well deserving of a number 1 spot. Here's why. First off, the Disney parks. Sure, it's only 2 parks to Walt Disney World's 4, but in my opinion, the quality of Disneyland and Disney's California Adventure overall rises above a lot of what Walt Disney World has to offer. I mean, straight up, Disneyland is a much better theme park than Magic Kingdom. I don't know how anybody could debate that. Then you have Universal Studios Hollywood. Again, admittedly much smaller than the Orlando Resort. In fact, it's not really going for a resort feel at all, but it makes up for that by using its space really resourcefully and offering some rides that Universal Orlando doesn't have, including a Secret Life of Pets ride, an updated Jurassic World ride, the Mario Kart ride opened there first, there's an upcoming Fast and the Furious coaster. It's not as good as Universal Orlando, there's no question about that, but that doesn't mean it's not a quality park.
But continuing on in the LA area, you know what Florida doesn't have? A Six Flags or a Cedar Fair park, whereas LA does!
And it's not just any Six Flags and Cedar Fair park, it's some of the premier parks for each chain. Magic Mountain is widely considered to be the best in the chain and has the most roller coasters of any theme park in the US. And Knott's Berry Farm is arguably the best themed Cedar Fair park out there. It literally inspired Disneyland back in the day, and it has tons of great coasters. But if you want to move north up to San Francisco, you'll find another Six Flags and Cedar Fair park. Six Flags Discovery Kingdom and California's Great America aren't the best in their respective chains, but they're still solid theme parks with some pretty unique attractions and coasters. And if you drive south of LA instead of north, you'll pass by Legoland California, which is arguably better than Legoland Florida. Then you'll get to San Diego, which has SeaWorld San Diego and a tiny boardwalk park called Belmont with a fantastic wooden coaster.
I really could keep going on and on. There's Adventure City, which is this children's park that has this really bizarre family roller coaster called Rewind Racers, or there's Gilroy Gardens, which actually used to be owned by Cedar Fair. There's tons of other tiny theme parks in the state. There's always talks of new developments at current and brand new theme parks. There's tons of FECs in the state. There's even a few alpine coasters. It's truly a massive state with a seemingly endless amount of theme parks and attractions. I suppose you could go either way with California or Florida. Hell, if you really want to, you could throw in Pennsylvania if all you really care about is coasters and chocolate bars. But to me, California will always have a spectacular amount of variety and quality and will always be my number 1 pick for the the state with the best theme parks in it. So anyways, that's my list. Feel free to let me know how you'd rank the 50 states in a list of your own. Now, if you'd excuse me, a new Malibu Jack's just opened up across the street, and I want to go check it out. I heard they're giving the first 100 customers free polio!